So you may be wondering what's been causing all the delays in these videos this year and why I'm in such a different spot. I finally moved. It's been an incredibly lengthy, time-consuming project, but I'm finally settled in. So yeah, this will be my filming wall for the next couple of weeks. It doesn't have a lot going on the walls, but at least the chair's comfier. So in order to kind of power down from the move and relax, I figured that I'd watch something from my childhood. Something relaxing. Something where in the first 5 minutes, a group of carolers are boiled to death. I know I'm cutting this close to December, but does that mean that we can count this as a Christmas movie too? The Addams Family has probably the simplest explanation of any group of characters I'll talk about in this series. They're a loving, adoring family that dwell in a haunted house, have creepy and disturbing personalities to everybody in the outside world, and they basically live a life of an all-horror-themed spectacle.
Children, look! Right at Lavinia! She was beheaded by her own children! Yay!
It's based off the television show from 1964, which itself is based off a comic strip from The New Yorker. That opening kill with the boiling oil is actually ripped straight from a comic page. The movie itself concerns the family attempting to reconnect with Gomez's long-lost brother, Fester. It turns out, though, that they're being conned, as the man pretending to be Fester is actually the son of a greedy loan shark.
She's a pimp.
Refreshing, no?
Pimp. My mistake. Ladies is pimps, too. Anyway, she's trying to get her hands on the Addams family fortune, but it turns out that her son actually is Fester, and he just got amnesia. Forgot who he was, but was brought back to his senses from a bolt of lightning. Explaining this is not as interesting as watching the movie. It's a lot of fun.
It has to warm up.
Why?
So it can kill you.
I knew that.
I feel like every generation has a different introduction into the Addams Family. They're kind of omnipresent in pop culture. There was the original series in the 60s. There were a few different cartoon versions. I think they appeared on Scooby-Doo. Hell, my favorite version is actually the Hanna-Barbera cartoon from the 90s, which I remember very fondly because it used to be on every day after I got home from school.
Huxley, did you remember to bring your jacket for the bus ride?
Yes, Mom.
As for this, the Addams Family movie was just one of many, many mid-90s attempts to cash in on old TV shows and comic properties. It was surrounded by big-budget remakes of Leave It to Beaver, Dennis the Menace. Flipper got a movie in this decade. I don't remember much about Flipper other than the fact that he was a dolphin. That series had almost 100 episodes.
I'll buy a cup if you buy a box of my delicious Girl Scout cookies. Do we have a deal? Are they made from real Girl Scouts?
So naturally, it was expected that a movie like this would fail, or at least fade into obscurity. So why didn't it? People still seem to remember this, or even look back on it pretty fondly. And I think it's because of a couple different reasons. The first of which is that the Addams Family is a fun, standalone product.
Look, children, a new chapter. Scabs.
And this movie doesn't try to change a lot of what made the original series so lovable. It captures and enhances a lot of what made the original adaptation so much fun. Little things about all the characters are exemplified to the nth degree, like, I love how Grandma cooks with a copy of Grey's Anatomy next to her. That's really fun. Gomez playing with his trains is not only just a quirky character trait, it's a full-on mental breakdown.
Oh, no. Father's playing with his trains.
And as par for the course for anything Addams Family, acts of violence are not meant to draw people apart, they are meant to bring them together.
Haven't you ever slaughtered anyone?
He's only a child.
No excuse.
Seeing the environment in full settings in full 3D and color make for a great clash of styles, especially when the Addams are surrounded by the normals. It's a multi-layered haunted mansion complete with trapdoors, living ornaments that attack intruders, and an undoubtedly creepy yet somehow somewhat cozy design. One of my favorite moments is actually the transfer in shock, first from Morticia towards the parents, very put off by all their wholesomeness.
And Harmony Fell has picked Jane Pauley. Have you spoken to her parents?
And then Wednesday and Pugsley just put on the greatest version of Hamlet I've seen, and I'm pretty sure half that audience went catatonic. Sometimes the regular suburbanites are depicted as being obnoxiously over the top. They're incredibly cheery. They all have painted-on faces. Their houses are made of ticky-tacky. But it only makes it better when the Addams are catapulted into social situations. They turn an auction into an orgy, for God's sake.
So,
to Morticia Addams for $50,000.
The atmosphere of this film, despite its flaws, is never boring. It's always playing off of itself incredibly well, and a big part of that has to do with the film's greatest strength. Flawless casting.
Il me perce comme un poignard.
Oh, Tish. That's French.
Oui.
Raul Julia and Angelica Houston are a godsend as Gomez and Morticia. Their chemistry is amazing. Their dedication to the roles, fascinatingly good. I mean, Morticia looks like she was tailor-made for Houston to play in some instances, but when you think about everything else that Raul Julia had done, this was a huge step for him in terms of pure insanity. Remember, this was years before the Street Fighter movie. This type of campiness was not expected from him.
He's sullen.
He's furtive.
Backstabbing.
He sulks.
I suspect him.
You're unbalanced.
And I hate him. By God, you're right! He is Fester!
And his scenes are hands down my favorite, especially any instance where he sword fights, screams, and dances. Which is every time he's on screen.
One for me.
Taking a moment to just compliment the characters themselves, Morticia and Gomez are the epitome of couples goals.
You were like some desperate, howling demon. You frightened me. Do it again.
Comparing them to a lot of similar properties, especially some stuff that existed around the time of the TV series in the 60s, they don't snip at each other, they don't sarcastically groan at the fact that they're married. This is pure, unbelievable love. There is nothing hateful or malicious about the way that they talk to or about each other. They genuinely enjoy the time that is spent occupying the same space. Hell, even their knickknacks are shaped like them, and they can't keep their hands to themselves.
Our lifeless bodies rotting together for all eternity.
Cara mia.
The rest of the family is fantastic too. I mean, Christina Ricci is Wednesday Addams. There's no differentiating her from the character. That is the role she was born to play.
Where's your costume?
This is my costume. I'm a homicidal maniac. They look just like everyone else.
Pugsley's probably the one family member that really doesn't have anything standing out about his character, but I think that's because they didn't make him the sunken-eyed little monster like in the cartoon. He's just kind of a silent, smiling serial killer type. Oh crap, that's why. Alright, he's good. He's good.
Bravo, Pugsley!
And then there's Uncle Fester.
Come on!
God bless Christopher Lloyd. He never phones this stuff in. And even when he does, you can't tell. His facial expressions, his crazy screams, his total commitment to the character. And I'm particularly fond of any time he bonds with Wednesday and Pugsley. The scenes where they're blowing crap up together, it just warms the heart.
3 parts dynamite with a nitroglycerin cap. It's perfect for small homes, carports, and tool sheds.
But even Thing and Lurch, they don't have any written lines, but not only do they have great interactions with the family, but they're defined characters as well.
Morticia? Morticia what? Slow down! It's terrible when you stutter!
Cousin It's there too, and... Oh, goddamn you, 1990s. You gave MC Hammer so much work. So with all this great momentum, all this amazing talent, all this incredible design and presence on screen, why is this movie just okay? It's because they make the movie entirely about Fester.
They're on to me, Mother. I'm almost sure. Of course I tried. I still can't find it. You've got to get over here.
Like I said, anytime Uncle Fester's on screen, it's not exactly a wasted moment. He's incredibly fun. But the family of the whole doesn't get a triumphant moment at the end of this movie where everybody comes together to one common goal because it's entirely Fester's story arc. He's the cause of the rising action, he causes the third act dilemma, and he's the one who saves the day at the end.
You were a terrible mother! There! I said it!
Comparatively, I don't want a whole movie around him. I want a whole movie around the rest of the family working together. or a standalone movie about Wednesday, but we'll get to that another time because I really need to go in depth about how good the sequel is for her. I think all of my problems stem with the fact that the film had constant trouble behind the scenes. It was originally supposed to be helmed by Tim Burton, and yes, I desperately wish to peek into the parallel universe where that happened. The script was also rewritten several times. It included going through a draft where it wasn't clear whether or not the real Uncle Fester in the family was the Uncle Fester on screen, and that's lame. Don't do that. Not to mention that the studio which originally produced it had terrible luck in terms of the movies it released, and it was constantly on the verge of going bankrupt. It was actually sold to Paramount in the middle of production, which from what I can tell is pretty rare. Normally they just kind of scrap the project outright. That being said, what we got is still a lot of fun.
Sic gorgiamus allos subjectatus nunc. We gladly feast on those who would subdue us. Not just pretty words.
Of all the 90s cash grabs that were made to just capitalize on nostalgia, this is one of the only ones that I would say is not only worth watching, but it's good. It's the best use of the Addams Family I've seen yet, and that includes the one with Daryl Hannah and Tim Curry as Morticia and Gomez. And yes, that's a thing. Check it out. The biggest flaw of this movie is that it tries to have a point. And the Addams Family, of all things, doesn't need a point. That's why the best scenes in this movie are just the Addams Family being the Addams Family. Great characters doing funny and interesting things in specifically fun environments. Completely interesting interactions and speeches and dialogue. That's what made the Addams Family so great to begin with. And that's what makes it so great to see it on screen. And yeah, there was a sequel with a crazy babysitter played by Joan Cusack. And we're definitely going to get to that when we have time. Next time, we're going to be filming from the studio, bringing in Reese and Holly, because we're talking about this year's Pay to Get Out Festival.
Here's your invitation!